Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So, last week Lolita News by ScarfingScarves has recently blessed us with 3 videos, and the one I'm going to be responding to today is the one in which she talks about self-esteem in Lolita fashion and culture, and I will link that video in the description. So I have my thoughts organized, and I'm going to basically separate the discussion into 2 pieces, just like she did. So I'm going to talk about the fashion aspect and the culture aspect. So like she said, Lolita fashion, when you see the models, they are thin and fair-skinned and photoshopped to unrealistic standards. Had I entered this fashion maybe 6 years ago, my self-esteem would have been in the toilet. Like 6 years ago, I went to Japan and I had a blast there for sure for all 3 weeks that I was there, but my self-esteem kind of took a hit. Like you see Japanese people on TV, and logically you know that they tend to be small, but it's a completely different story when you're actually in Japan. And back then, I didn't have the tools that I have now to deal with my anxiety and depression. So it really messed me up. I felt like an elephant, and I remained messed up for a while, even after returning to the States. I even contemplated starving myself again. So definitely from a weight perspective, I probably would, if I had gotten into the fashion 6 years ago, pretty sure I would have gotten discouraged, like seeing all the models, and I would have given up. And similarly, 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, up until very recently, I struggled with my skin color. To put into perspective, today I wear sunscreen, I use parasols. Even when I'm not wearing Lolita, I use parasols and sun hats. And I tend to avoid the sun, but that's purely for skin health. That's it. Back then, I hated the sun because the sun made me darker, and I thought having dark skin made me less attractive. And of course, all of the Lolita models are not only Asian, but they are fair-skinned Asian. And we all know how colorism pervades various Asian communities. In fact, I remember watching a video with Misako-san herself talking about how to be a Lolita. And it wasn't a parody or satire, it wasn't meant to be funny at all. It was in Japanese for a Japanese audience. And she said that Lolitas, one of the things that they must do is that they must have fair skin. And now I think, well, that's a little annoying. Like even if the whole video wasn't in Japanese, I mean, she should know by now that Lolita fashion is an international thing. Not everybody can be fair-skinned. So yeah, right now I can think, well, that's a little annoying. But had I heard that from her like maybe 6 years ago, that would have really, really hurt my feelings. And I think today most Lolitas don't think that way. I think today most Lolitas accept everyone, like anyone can be a Lolita. But the whole rhetoric of Lolitas must have fair skin, there might be some people out there who still think that way, and something like that definitely would have discouraged me from wearing the fashion at all. Luckily, I'm in a much better mental state than I was back then, and I definitely feel comfortable in my skin. And also, when I was watching the video by ScarfingScarves, when she mentioned the models, I realized the lack of representation doesn't bother me as much because I got into my local communities fairly early on, and I got to see firsthand how diverse the Lolita community actually is. We come in all shapes, sizes, heights, colors, like everything. Where anyone can be a Lolita, and that is one of the things that I love about this fashion. And it really helps to participate in this community because then you see what Lolita looks like is what we all look like, not what the models look like. Six years ago, I definitely would have thought that I wasn't good enough for Lolita or that I wouldn't be able to pull it off. But now I know that it suits me. It suits me as I am now. Moving on to the cultural aspect, and I'm sorry if it seems like the angles are changing. I'm actually sitting down because my feet really hurt from work, and I'm sorry, bear with me because this chair keeps shifting. So, moving on to the next aspect, the cultural aspect. So, I'm now aware that no Lolita worth their salt actually thinks that you can't wear indie brand, off-brand, or handmade dresses. Like, no one actually thinks that. However, there are still new people who are coming into this fashion think that you need brand with a capital B to be taken seriously. Because that's how I felt when I first got into Fairy K fashion some years ago, and a couple years before I began Lolita fashion. I didn't think I was Fairy K enough until I had my Milk Limb shirts and my Milk Limb jacket, until I had those items, especially until I had the iconic mint cotton candy Milk Limb sweatshirt. I wasn't Fairy K enough. So I came into this fashion knowing a little better, but the urge to spend is real. Like, the urge to collect is still real. The urge to buy brand with a capital B is real. Like, even now, I sometimes struggle with the fact that I'm still new and I'm still, collecting. I'm still building my collection when there are still so many Lolitas my age and even younger with a closet full of brand. My personal need to buy and collect not only comes from my personal need to keep up, but it also helps to alleviate my depression when I'm shopping for or wearing Lolita, when I'm out having tea with other Lolitas, it makes things feel a little better. I feel like my truest and most beautiful self. And I don't have to think about the aspects of my life that are not so beautiful. And lately, my depression has been pretty brutal. Like, my brain has not been very kind to me. And sometimes I like to just dress up and go on walks just to feel better. So it is these things that push me, and I suspect similar reasons push others to spend money that we may or may not have on a new dress. And like ScarfingScarves said, for better or for worse, that's a part of the culture. That's a part of the culture of Lolita fashion. However, thankfully, there are well-established Lolitas out there saying that you need to budget, you need to save up, you need to make sure your necessities are taken care of first. So make sure your rent is paid, make sure you have food, because priorities. And I think it's really helpful, especially for new Lolitas first coming into the fashion, to hear that from established Lolitas. I myself have started budgeting every month, so I save money every month and I allot myself a certain amount of funds to spend on Lolita and kawaii J fashion in general. That's helped me a lot, and interestingly enough, it's the budgeting method that I learned from Jenna Moresi. Just 4 final things. 1, thank you to ScarfingScarves for making such a great video. 2, friendly reminder that my giveaway is still happening until June 5th. 3, Patreon shoutouts to LCT-Comics and Casian Holly. Thank you so much. And 4, liking and subscribing help me out very much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!